Good evening and welcome to the October 16th, 2016 meeting of the Gaithersburg Planning Commission. This week we learned of the passing of longtime City Council member Henry Marafa. And shortly after the announcement, tributes and remembrances came in from friends and colleagues, as well as others with whom he was associated from local, regional, and even national organizations, a testament to the positive impact he had not only within the city of Gaithersburg, but beyond its borders as well. His long service to the city concluded not only the City Council, but terms with the Board of Appeals and with the Planning Commission. I encourage you to read the very fitting tribute to Henry from the mayor on the city's website. So on behalf of the Planning Commission, we extend our sincere condolences to Henry's wife Donna and their entire family. And I'd like to start this evening with a moment of silence for Henry Marafa. Okay, thank you. First item on our agenda tonight is the approval of the minutes from the September 21st, 2016 meeting. Do we have enough here to do this?
Yes.
Okay, so I think Danny and Matt, you will abstain? Okay, very good. So is there a motion for that, please?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the minutes of September 21st, 2016 as written to the record.
I second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, and 2 abstentions, so that's
Abstain, yeah.
1, 2, 3 to 2. 302. Thanks. Next up is the meeting minutes from our October 5th, 2016 Planning Commission meeting. Is there a motion, please?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the minutes of October 5th, 2016 as written to the record.
Second?
Moved and seconded, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and 1 abstention. I believe Danny, you were out that night?
No.
But you were
I was
here?
Yep.
Okay, I thought I had something, I had it wrong, I'm sorry, so that's passed unanimously. And that takes us to our record plat agenda. Trudy, do you want to set us up for that, please?
Good evening. Tonight before you is record plat 7343-2016, the FedEx Ground Parcel H IBM subdivision in the I-3 zone. You might think that this is something familiar because you actually approved this a couple of meetings ago. We did not get all the signatures and we weren't able to record it, which was very good because the applicant came and said we need to make a few minor changes. So this is back before you to reapprove.
Okay, is there any changes to so what are the changes to the plat? Anything
They
technical?
modified the forest conservation easement and a WSSC easement.
Okay, so just some
location.
technical changes.
Yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
very good. Any questions? Go ahead.
I was not here. What do we need to do? I abstained.
October.
But this is a record plat and it's a
No,
new.
no, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I wasn't here on October 5th.
Oh, for the minutes.
Oh, for the
For the
Yes.
minutes.
Yes, I'm sorry.
So I did have that right.
You did have it right. I was wrong.
So we take the vote down to 4-0.
Yes, okay.
For
The
the
second,
record.
but I believe you made the second.
I made the second. I
But
can't.
he
second
can
that.
make
Right.
the second.
Do we have to start this all over again?
No, he can make a second even though, and
I
still
can't vote.
abstain.
Consider.
Right.
The second
Yeah.
allows.
Okay.
I can't.
Okay.
I have to abstain.
Wow, really?
Yes.
It is very true.
That's a good detail to know.
Didn't know
Yeah.
It is. That's what a second is.
I love climbing inside the order. Okay.
I'm sorry. I
record.
just wanted to correct the record.
Go back to the
Thanks,
plan,
Danny.
please.
Okay.
Okay, the plat is 7343-2016, and it's ready for your approval.
Okay, just one. Any questions?
No.
No.
All right, is there a motion, please?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the plat as presented by staff.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. All right, next up is our sign permit agenda, and there's one on that, in that section tonight for sign-12403-2016, Fix My Phone signage at 550 North Frederick Avenue, the CD Corporate Development Zone. And this is for an icon sign approval, and it looks like Jasmine Forbes is presenting from staff. Good evening, Jasmine.
Good evening. So this application is for the Fix My Phone signage located at 550 North Frederick Avenue, which is in the Gaithersburg Square Shopping Center. The application comes before the Planning Commission because the sign contains an image of a phone and a gear, which is considered an icon sign. In section 24-212J of the city's sign ordinance, any sign containing any form of a person, animal, vegetable, fruit, or product is required Planning Commission approval. So the applicant is requesting a 24 square foot individually channel letter non-illuminated sign in the front of their entrance of their business. There's currently no sign package for the Gaithersburg Square Shopping Center, so we looked at the other signages within that shopping center, and they're all pretty consistent. So staff finds that the sign complies with the city sign ordinance, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, good. Any questions?
No.
I don't actually understand what the icon is, but it doesn't seem to be any.
Yeah,
It's
the
like a-
fix my phone seems pretty straightforward though. So maybe the icon we can ever pass for that.
That sort of clarifies what fix my phone is.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that is either.
But who are we to argue with branding and standards,
Yeah.
right? Okay. Very good. Any questions or any concerns with the icon?
Yeah.
All right, is there a motion, please?
Mr. Chairman, I move that.
I'm sorry, you know what? I need
Oh.
to say for the record, is there
Oh.
anyone here that's to
you.
comment on this application?
Thank you.
Would you like to say something, Frank?
No, just thank you for.
All right, very good. Seeing no one, then Jasmine, please, a recommendation.
So
I
staff-
skipped forward.
Right.
So staff recommends that the planning commission, based on the exhibits submitted in the staff report, findings and recommendation, grant sign -12403-2016 fixed by foam signage, finding in compliance with section 24-212 of the city code.
Okay, any questions on the recommendation? All right, is there a motion, please?
Mr. Chairman, based on the exhibits submitted in the staff report findings and recommendation, I move that we grant sign 12403-2016, finding it in compliance with section 24-212 of the city code with the one condition is written to the record.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that passes unanimously. Thanks, Jasmine.
Thank you.
All right, next up is our is a recommendation to the mayor and city council on Z-7187-2015, the Stevenson property, 5.69 acres of land, and is a development as a residential community in the MXD zone. And this is for a sketch plan, a recommendation for sketch plan approval. And presenting from staff is Greg Mann. Good evening, Greg.
Good evening. Staff is before you tonight to request a recommendation to the mayor and city council for sketch plan Z-7187-2015, known as the Stevenson property. A joint public hearing was held for the application on September 6th, and the planning commission's recommendation closed on October 11th. At the time of the planning commission's records closing, staff has received 2 additional public comments into the record. As presented during the public hearing, this application was requesting approval for the development of approximately 5.69 acres of land as a residential community. The applicant is proposing the site be developed with townhomes or a combination of townhomes and stacked condominiums. With that being said, the applicant has made it clear that they would prefer to develop the site with only townhomes and only proposing stacked condominiums to provide flexibility depending on how the adjacent properties develop. If stacked condominiums are used, as the sketch plan delineates, they will only be within the orange bubble in the middle, and it will only be 60% of the units in that area. The Stevenson property currently only has public access by means of Metropolitan Grove Road, as you can see here. With the uncertainty over access, as staff has determined that it cannot be the only means of access to the property. With that being said, within the uncertainty over access, the proposed sketch plan does show multiple tentative locations for the proposed roads and connections to both the adjacent property, Metropolitan Grove, and as well as to maybe any future road connection to the south. With that being said, one of the main points discussed in the public hearing was if the sketch plan can be reviewed and subsequently acted on with uncertainty over adequate access. In response, the applicant has submitted a letter addressing the concerns raised. As stated in the applicant's letter, section 24-160D.9 and 24-169 of the city code outline the requirements for what must be shown on a proposed sketch plan. These sections of the code specify that a proposed sketch plan must show the tentative location, proposed streets, and accesses. Further, staff would add roads are not required to be shown on a sketch plan pursuant to section 24-160D.7C, which states all streets to be dedicated to public use shall be shown on the schematic development plan and final site plan. Further, section 24-160D.7C states all private streets and alleyways also must be shown on the schematic development plan and final site plan. Staff would also like to note that section 24-160D.2F states that lots in the MXD zone are not required to have frontage on public streets, as long as such condition will promote the creativity or the creation of affordable housing or will further the purpose and objective of the MXD zone. Staff would note the applicant will be required to provide affordable housing pursuant to Section 24-252 of the City Code. And staff is the opinion the proposed sketch plan promotes connectivity with adjacent properties, encourages the efficient use of land by locating residential near employment, retail, and open space, and encourages pedestrian and other non-vehicle circulation systems, which are all stated objectives of the MXD zone. In conclusion, staff concurs with the applicant's statement and is of the opinion the proposed sketch plan meets the requirements for review. As it relates to access to the Stevenson property, another comment raised during the public hearing was, what are the current issues preventing access from the adjacent properties connecting it to Watkins Mill Town Center development? Currently, the Stevenson property is located to the east of Exchange Avenue, and as such, there is currently no connection between the two developments, with the only access to the Stevenson property being provided along Metropolitan Grove Road. As can be seen on the map currently on the screen, two properties currently prohibit access between the Stevenson property and Watkins Mill Town Center. Those are Parcel W Block E, seen in yellow, and Parcel P304, seen in blue. It's important to note that when the Watkins Mill Town Center was approved, the properties located to the east of Exchange Avenue, which included the Stevenson property, were not included in those approved plans. Still, it's staff's opinion that these properties were always intended to be part of the greater Watkins Mill Town Center development or community. And as outlined in the staff analysis, this determination is based off the following. The design of Exchange Avenue would assume it was envisioned to be extended to possibly provide potential connections to the adjacent properties. Exchange Avenue is currently an 80-foot public right-of-way that includes 4 lanes of traffic and terminates at Parcel W Block E. Typically, the city only allows public roads to be stubbed if they are anticipated to be extended in the future. Our typical way of handling dead-end roads are cul-de-sacs, not stub-outs, as is the case with Exchange Avenue. At the time the Watkins Mill Town Center development was approved, the 2003 master plan was the guiding document. The Stevenson property and the future Watkins Mill Town Center were both included in the 2003 master plan under Special Study Area 7 and proposed 3 land use options for this area. The approval and development of the Watkins Mill Town Center utilized option C, which recommended the Stevens property to be developed with residential units, a park, or a school. Further, the 2003 master plan envisioned Metropolitan Grove Road to be improved and to provide a secondary access to the Watkins Mill Town Center development. Staff is of the opinion that at the time of site plan approval, allowing Exchange Avenue to be stubbed provided the ability for the road to facilitate the land uses and connectivity outlined in the 2003 master plan. Staff is of the opinion that the approved plans for Watkins Mill Town Center also anticipated that Exchange Avenue be extended and potentially provide access to the properties to the east of the development, which included the Stevenson property. Both the approved schematic development plan and the final site plan for the Watkins Mill Town Center references future right-of-way connections to the properties to the east, which again would include the Stevenson property. And lastly, the I-270 US 15 multimodal corridor study identified this area as the potential location for future I-270 express toll lane direct access ramps. The study showed that the access ramps are intended to connect to the Watkins Mill Town Center development and approximately the location that Exchange Avenue currently terminates. And you can see that right here. With the uncertainty over access, the applicant was asked during the public hearing why sketch plan approval would benefit them at this time. As discussed in the applicant's letter, obtaining sketch plan approval at this time is important as the applicant feels it will help in negotiations with the adjacent property owner over future access, will allow them to proceed more quickly with subsequent site plans reviews once access is provided, and will ensure the access is provided to the Stevenson property when the adjacent properties are developed. Staff supports the applicant's reasoning for requesting sketch plan approval at this time. And lastly, during this public hearing, there was a comment about access to the city property to the north. You can see it seen here. According to the city's Public Works Operators Division Chief, Mark Scafidi, the property is currently landlocked and the city does not have a point of entry for it. As such, the applicant has provided on the sketch plan a potential connection, as seen here, to that parcel. Staff is supportive of the proposed connection since it will provide access to a currently inaccessible city property. Even with the uncertainty over access, it is staff's opinion that the proposed sketch plan is in conformance with the requirements of the MXD zone, and that the proposed sketch plan furthers recommendations found in both the 2003 and 2009 master plan by including potential access points to both Watkins Mill Town Center and Metropolitan Grove Road. As such, staff recommends to the Planning Commission, based on the evidence and testimony submitted into the record, and the findings in the final staff analysis, recommend approval for Z-7187-2015 to the Mayor and City Council with 4 conditions. I would like to add that I have revised some of the conditions since your package has been submitted for review. Okay. So I would I'm going to read the conditions into the record.
Sure.
The first condition is prior to the submission of any schematic development plan applications, the applicant must provide to the city satisfactory confirmation that rights-of-way, connections, and utility easements to the subject property have been and will be provided. Owners of all properties included in the schematic development plan, including all proposed rights-of-ways and utility easements, shall be required to provide letters of agreement for the proposed schematic development plan. All future schematic development plans and final site plans must provide vehicle and pedestrian connectivity with both the adjacent properties and the Watkins Mill Town Center development. And finally, the applicant to continue to work with staff to ensure the preliminary stormwater management plans meet the city's requirements prior to the submission of any schematic development plan applications. With that, staff is available to answer any questions you may have. Also, the applicant, Chris Mom, is available in the audience tonight too. If you have any questions for him, they can clarify.
Okay, great. Thank you, Greg. And thank you for being very thorough with going back to some of the testimony and some of the discussion from the public hearing, and to be sure we had the good information and kind of a resolution to all those questions. I appreciate that.
Great report.
Thank you. All right, any questions for Greg? Our record is closed, so this is really a discussion and recommendation time. So any questions for Greg?
No, this was pretty complex, unfortunately, but I'm glad that you're very thorough in your analysis and coming up with a resolution that should work.
All right.
Okay with it?
Great. Anything else?
I mean, I think the plan itself is reasonable. It actually has a good, grid to it, and I think it makes a nice extension of what is a large mixed-use community, very well. So I would support the sketch plan.
Okay.
I like the connectivity and the continuity of the fact that this will blend in nicely with the current Watkins Mill, town center concept that hopefully will come to fruition, and this may spur it on even more so, hopefully, and stimulate some greater interest in getting some retail and shops over there, as well as the fact that it is a great commuter rail access point, and it shouldn't be ignored. I mean, this is something that we've been preaching over here for many years about, getting connectivity with mass transit, getting people off the road. The other thing that I would like to see is that parkland developed to the north, and I think this gives us the opportunity finally to develop that parkland that's been sitting in our, in our reserve for several years now, and it's useless. I mean, there's nothing we can do with it. So this will give us access. So I'm really encouraged by the plan.
Good. All right. Go ahead.
If I may, I find that not much has changed since we had the public hearing, and that's a little troublesome to me, especially because this just points out the fact that our code may allows for a piece of property that's by all means landlocked to pursue an MXD zoning. And so while I agree with all the comments that have been shared by the other commissioners about how it is a great next step for the Watkins Mill development, I'm also just puzzled about just designating a property that perhaps won't even get to that point if the connectivity is not realized. And I understand that, nothing will move forward unless that's resolved, but I think it points out to a potential red flag in the code of, can we really just assign MXD to a piece of property that is a bubble?
I will add that it is already MXD zoned. There was never a sketch plan established with it at the time. It was comprehensively rezoned.
Okay.
And typically with comprehensive rezonings, that they do not get a assigned sketch plan with them.
Okay.
So this will be the first sketch plan with this property.
Okay, and, all right.
I was going to say, I think what's changed, though, is the fact that prior to the past hearing, we weren't quite sure whether the party involved, the third party, if you will, was willing to negotiate or willing to participate in this. And it sounds like now that's changed. So that's a major change in where we are right now, which is why I think we're looking at this more optimistically than we were several weeks ago during the hearings.
Yeah, I tied up with one comment. I think I'm sort of in the same boat that Roselli might be, where it doesn't make sense to approve a plan that fundamentally isn't viable at this point. That's sort of a kind of a funny sort of place to be. But as we got more clarification on, first of all, the role of a sketch plan and what vests or doesn't vest, frankly, and the the fact that our master plan already envisions a developable project on this parcel, essentially what I believe we're doing is simply reinforcing what the master plan already says we'd like to see there, and what we've approved as the direction for this site. Even though the existing conditions developed independent of the master plan to leave us with this awkward and sort of undevelopable piece of land, it's not irreparable. So if things progress, or they should progress, this reinforces the original vision for this larger zone, which is that there should be some continuity of development between the adjacent already developed property and this. And this just gives us a way to put a little bit of an emphasis on that, and I think that's appropriate. Clearly, by the time it gets to SDP, all of the questions about how the access and how it's integrated and whether the density is appropriate or not can be fleshed out and can be fully vetted and developed. I don't think any of us imagines it's just going to be plopped in with an inadequate or inappropriate access point. It really does have to come with
Absolutely.
an
I think, it's sort of like, it sits in the middle of, it's absolutely the next frontier for this development. So it absolutely has to come to that point of being developed. But at the same time, I think, it just begs the question, are we setting a precedent for, this type of properties not having an access and approving a schematic plan without having, a clarity on how that's going to move forward. In this particular case, we have the Exchange Road that it's like sitting right there, but I think that, I don't know, it's a little troubling to me that we can get to that stage without having that worked out.
Yep. There was definitely some disconnected decisions made here, I think, earlier on that's leaving us with this condition.
And hopefully we
Disconnected
learn
road,
from
too.
that.
Yeah.
We learn going forward.
It is disconnected. I do want the record to show in our recommendation to the council that much like what Roselli's talking about in terms of kind of this cart before the horse condition, that we acknowledge and recognize that and would rather not see that, but given the conditions that exist and what might be more of a kind of almost a remediation to a bad existing condition, that's why we'd like to see this move forward with an approval of the sketch plan, if I have concurrence with the other commissioners. But to recognize that it's more of a technical tactic than it is an overall visionary tactic right now, that we're trying to make sure we get this back on track for appropriate development, and that's why this is important, or why we think it's an appropriate approval.
Yeah, I mean, I have zero heartburn over this. I think it's, this is what a sketch plan is for. We have a master plan that outlines 3 options in text, right, in words, and the applicant, the property owner, has chosen one of those paths and added a little bit of bubble detail to that in terms of yield and product type. And that's what a sketch plan is supposed to do for me. We're not asking them to size a sewer line. We're not asking them to size, all that sort of public service piece, everything from the fire department to the roadways comes at schematic, right? Sketches for the idea, yields and product type in a bubble plan.
Yep.
And that's what we got.
Very
Something, the next step from a master plan.
Good point. So any other concerns or questions? All right, the proposal's on the table for a recommendation to the mayor and council for approval with 4 conditions. Is that?
That's
4?
correct, yes.
4. So is there a motion,
Okay,
please?
Mr. Chair, based on the evidence and testimony submitted into the record and the findings in the final staff analysis, I move that the Planning Commission recommend approval of Z-7187-2015 to the mayor and city council with the 4 conditions that were read into the record.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Greg, thank
This
you
was-
for
This was
the work on
difficult,
that.
but I'm glad we got something going.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
can move forward.
All right, next up is our site plan agenda. The first one tonight is AFP-7314-2016. The Salazar residence at 11 Cedar Avenue in the R90 medium density residential zone. This is for a second-story addition to the existing house and expansion of an existing driveway. It's an amendment to final site plan, and Jasmine Forbes from staff is presenting. Good evening again.
Good evening. Staff is before you to present amendment to final site plan application AFP-7314-2016. The subject property is located at 11 Cedar Avenue in Zone 90. This application comes before the Planning Commission in accordance to Section 24-168A, which requires the Planning Commission to grant approvals for single family dwelling units that put additions on their home that are over 50%. The existing home is 1,056 square feet and was built in 1947. The applicant's seeking approval requesting to construct a second-story addition to the existing home and expand the existing driveway to fit another car. Since the property is located in Observatory Heights, this application went to the Historic District Commission as a courtesy review on August 24th, and I will let the applicant kind of go over what their comments were and what they did to change the plans. So I'm going to turn your attention to Hansu Harib, who's the architect with this plan.
Good evening.
Good evening. Well, as we had a meeting last month or so, but I presented the project. The board recommended that we should widen up the walkway and the stairs and change the look of the windows from vertical to horizontal and beef up the columns. I took the recommendation and addressed it and improved it, and it looks much better, and I thank the board for the recommendation. It's going to cost the owner a little more money, but makes the project more pleasant looking. And the second floor, as you see here, the second floor is completely new. We'd have to take the roof off and put a second floor. Sure. And also in the loft, I provided a little, sewing room or computer room, something that the lady of the house can use it. The second floor consists of 2 bedrooms and 1 master bedroom with a master bathroom. This is the front view. This is the rear view of the building. This is a side view, the north. This is the other side, which makes the building look consistent with the rest of the renovations and the building that's been done in that area.
All right, thank
So
you.
we're happy for any
So any
questions.
question?
Oh, okay, any questions? You want a hip group in that dormer, don't you? I just hear it coming. Any questions, any concerns? Okay. Proceed, please. Actually, I should ask, is there anyone in the audience who is here to comment on this? Okay. So then your recommendation, please.
So staff recommends that the Planning Commission, based on the exhibits submitted, the applicant's testimony, and the staff report, findings and recommendation, grant AFP-7314-2016 Salazar residence, cited in compliance with sections 24-170 and 24-172A of the city code with one condition.
Very good. All right, thanks. Yeah, in my passing through that neighborhood on a number of projects, it seems like it's eclectic enough to sort of acknowledge and allow.
Yeah.
Allow. You say wacky. Eclectic
Eclectic's
is
the right
Quirky.
word.
eclectic is the official term.
Yeah.
But that's a good thing. It's not. I don't mean to belittle that at all. In fact, I think that's
Yeah,
actually a
it's not
desired
fun.
state. So, and this seems to be in keeping with the scale of that
Intrinsic.
eclecticism. But any other comments?
You just made a word.
I think
You
it's
just
got-
made up a word.
I mean, I think it's a really, I think it's a nice facade, and it's kind of neat. I'm kind of reveling in the hand-drawn elevations too. It's kind of fun to see, but the it's been a couple decades since I saw
on the shelf,
one.
I mean, on the porch there too.
But yeah, it's like asymmetrical without being asymmetrical. It's really kind of a cute little building. So I think it's neat. Yeah.
I like the transformation. It is nice.
Just a question, in that addition that you're making for the second parking location, next to the, just on the screen, we had the garage door, and next to it, there's that wall that is a retaining wall that is going to basically keep the stairs up. What material are you using for that?
I'm sorry, can you speak louder? I have a little ear problem.
That's fine. I'm just wondering what material you plan to use. It's just stucco. Never mind. I just read the information. Next to the garage door, it's going to be stucco, that wall, correct?
Right, next to the garage door, we extend another 10 feet to be able to park. We have to take the hill off, there's a,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
some
retaining wall.
excavation there. to
Yeah.
grow.
It's so hard to read.
Yeah.
And the stairs themselves are on a retaining wall, is that right?
Exactly.
Yes.
No, my reason is that I feel compelled to put another fake garage door or something like that. It's just
Oh,
stucco
give it some
seems like.
symmetry.
Yeah.
That was HDC's comment. They had a comment about that retaining wall, and that's all you're going to see.
Okay.
Well, would you mind put up the site plan in that zone, in that area?
Sure.
Because the other traditional practice would be, instead of faking it, is maybe pulling the paving back enough to get a landscape bed in, like, right against the wall. That's the only other possibility. But I don't want to necessarily take away from your...
No, exactly. It's just a mild.
So zoom in on the bottom left, right where that, oops,
On the site plan?
the site plan,
Site
yeah.
plan.
But it's the view
Yeah,
that's...
it's the tiny little
The
one.
distance it's very,
Are you talking the...
it's 20 feet in length, so to make it shorter would put the car out onto the sidewalk, and that's what we try to keep the vehicle in.
Where's the 20 feet from?
Depth.
Yeah.
This,
But is it all the way to the curb, or is it just to where the apron is?
just to
To the sidewalk.
set the, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little confused.
Yeah, I'm not following you. If you zoom in on that one little part of the driveway there, and I'll tell you what I'm thinking. So from what says planter area, right there next to the garage door, right there, okay. So at what elevation is that?
That is on the same level as the front door. So when you go
So
up,
it's up a story, for essentially from the driveway, okay. Because what I was kind of leading up to is maybe to soften the where the driveway engages the building with the house is right in front of that wall. Maybe you pull back 2 or 3 feet for a planting bed. I don't see a dimension though that takes you from there back to the apron or back to the sidewalk.
It's implied in that concrete driveway that says 20 by 10.
Yeah.
And they have the 10-foot
Yeah.
dimension for the width.
20 by 10. Oh, I see. Okay, so you're saying it's just a dimension that's noted.
Yeah, it
Okay.
says
Not- yeah, no
concrete
dimensions. I'm
finish,
with you.
20 by
Okay.
10. Yeah, I mean, the standard vehicle length, I just Googled, it's 16.5 feet.
Well, standard space would be 18,
Yeah, standard
Yeah,
space is
18.
17,
Yeah.
but,
Oh,
So,
17.
but with a 1-foot overhang.
right.
so even if you did a 1-foot planter, I don't know, this is just nitpicking, but just a recommendation.
Well, that is 20 feet long, the second. The new driveway for the parking that we provide is 20 feet long, and the cars that are more than 17, 18, even Cadillac is 18. Usually the compact car is 14, and the average are 18, so.
And in theory, with the city ordinance, as Drew just pointed out, you could do a 17-foot planter with a 6-inch curb and have a 1-foot overhang. If you wanted, I don't have the heartburn for this one, but it's.
Okay, well, just,
Right.
it's an observation that
Yeah.
maybe a planting bed in front of the wall, the new wall immediately adjacent to the parking, to the garage door, would help soften that appearance a little bit, but I don't think it's a condition we're looking to add on to the
No,
site
not
plan.
at
I
all.
think it's a very appropriate plan and development, so
Yeah, it's nice.
if there's any other,
I just have one
Go ahead.
question for clarification. Jasmine, when you read the sections, you said 172A. Can you read the ones that you cited?
168A. Are you talking
okay,
about
that-
in my
Yeah,
recommendation?
your recommendation.
Oh, I think that's the section where you have to do the findings.
No, I just wanted you to reread them so that we get them right when we
Oh.
do our,
It's correct on there, 24-170
170
and 171.
oh, that's correct.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you.
all right, any other comments, questions? Are we ready for a motion?
Sure.
Please.
Mr. Chair, I move that the Planning Commission, based on the exhibits submitted, the staff report, findings, recommendations, our discussion, grant AFP-7314-2016, Salazar Residence, second story addition and expanded driveway, finding in compliance with sections 24-170 and 24-171 of the city code with the one condition that was read into the record.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor,
Yes.
please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Good luck.
Good luck.
Good looking
Yeah.
project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very
I
good looking
appreciate
project.
it.
All right, that takes us to our second site plan agenda item tonight, which is SP-7396-2016, Fitzgerald Lake Forest Auto Mall at 904 Russell Avenue in the C2 zone for the construction of a new parking lot and replacement of existing stormwater management pond with an underground detention system. And this is a final site plan being presented again from Greg Mann. Good evening.
Good evening.
Again.
This is for application SP-7396-2016 for the Fitzgerald Lake Forest Auto Mall. The applicant is requesting approval to replace an existing stormwater management pond with an underground detention system and a new parking lot located at the corner of Russell Avenue and Christopher Avenue in this area seen on the map now. This application is based upon concept site plan SP-7277-2016, which was approved by the Planning Commission on August 3rd, 2016. The subject property is as addressed at 904 Russell Avenue and is zone C2. And here tonight to present the application and answer any questions you may have is the applicant's engineer, Doug Tilley of O'Connell & Lawrence.
Good evening.
Good evening. Alrighty. So, Greg presented a lot of the information, just the basic information already. There we go. The project team, if you all recall, I was here about 2 months ago or so presenting the concept site plan that Greg presented.
Seems like just yesterday.
Yeah, I know, right? The project team has not changed. Here tonight is myself from O'Connell & Lawrence, we're the site engineer, and also Mike Norton from Norton Land Design, who's the environmental consultant, landscape architect on the project.
How you doing, Norton?
So the overall need for phase one of the project. Phase one is a technical engineering type phase of this. There's stormwater management upgrades. So there's an existing pond on site, which you guys have probably seen, that is in need of repair.
It's hard to see all the cars in it.
Yeah, well, it's in need of repair, and there's also a need from a business perspective for additional on-site parking for the Fitzgerald Auto Mall to allow for growth. So this is just a shot of the existing site. The concept site plan deals with two separate parcels. Parcel B is not shown because it's entirely it's not part of this particular phase of the development. Parcel F is the location of the outdated stormwater management pond, which is highlighted on this slide at the corner of Russell and Christopher down there. And this is the location of the major site upgrade. So this is just a rendering of sort of the finished product, showing the proposed surface lot and also the location of the underground detention system. So from a technical perspective, what we're intending on doing is basically taking the pond and putting it underground using a tried and true methodology, a standard, what we call a pipe farm, basically. So 6-foot pipes run in lines where water can be stored for a reasonable amount of time and released at a controlled rate. It essentially functions as a pond that's underground. Allows you to free up the space above it and use it for something else. In this case, a proposed surface lot to be used for additional vehicle storage. This is the original phasing diagram from our previous, this is phase one, which is down in this location right here. So from a parking perspective, the intention is to put an additional 44 storage spaces on the lot. So for example, we had shown vehicle storage spaces along the side right there. That's what these are going to be used for, and you can see the dimensions of the parking space that are going to be on site there. So there's an again, additional 44 spaces that can be put on this new parking surface. From a site circulation standpoint, we don't anticipate any concerns in this area. There's a standard 26-foot two-way aisle running down the middle, a standard 5-foot turnaround on the back end, so these the back spaces are accessible. You can easily get in and out, and a standard stop sign, stop bar for traffic control at that edge. We have had car turning diagrams run in this area with no concerns. We don't anticipate any site distance concerns at this location. Mike Norton is also here from Norton Land Design, as he's been the designer for the forest conservation that's been prepared. So the forest conservation plan was prepared for the entirety of the site. There's, I believe, 1.23 acres of on-site management and an additional 0.24 acres of forest conservation that will be completed with a fee in lieu. And that's one of the conditions of approval, is payment of that fee in lieu before permits will be issued. In this particular section of the property, there's only really one tree that's being removed, and the reasoning is simply that there's going to be a lot of pipe work in that area, and it just would not survive. In particular, we have what's called a Vortec, which is a pretreatment facility designed to pick up oils, greases, solids, the type of stuff that's going to get into a storm drain system that you try and prevent from getting into a major body of water, say the Watkins Mill Regional Pond, which is where this ultimately discharges to. And a total of 5 trees to be put in this particular area, and you can see them highlighted with the blue circles on there. So this slide shows the landscape, or the parking lot green area to meet with the 10% green space requirement for a parking facility, and you can see where the parking lot is going to be green. Obviously, it syncs up in some capacity with the trees that are being planted on site. And finally, from a lighting perspective, we're proposing 10 lights in this area. One of the lights, which you can see down at the sort of the bottom corner right here, in a drafting area, it's been conditioned out that light will be shifted into the green space so that it's not sitting in a parking space, and that will be
How
addressed.
tall are those poles?
They are, I believe they're 20 feet.
It's a lot of light.
It is a lot of light. I mean, the photometrics are pretty significant in this area, but
And it's all down, right?
yes. Standard LED system, and the base has been approved by the Department of Public Works. Finally, I should mention that we are also applying for 3 separate three parking waivers, or waivers from the parking code, as part of this. The first waiver is code section 24-219A.5, which is the bicycle requirement. The second is 24-219A.6, which is the motorcycle scooter requirement. And the third is 24-219B, which is the over parking requirement. The rationale behind that is simply that this is a vehicle storage space that, number one, we're not expecting there to be any motorcycle or scooter or bicycle requirements for this particular area on site. And from an over parking standpoint, that's what they do here. They sell cars, so they need storage space. And that's the reason for the request of the waiver that we have asked for. And that ends my presentation. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them now.
Just a couple quick clarifications. The plan you showed, not the landscape plan, but the engineered parking plan?
Yes.
Just put that up real quick.
This one right here?
What is the hatched area that almost looks like an intent to park zone? At the end and also kind of adjacent to the run of parking along Russell.
Oh, those are the green space areas.
So you've calculated them essentially like just the parking area, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, on the question about the waiver for bicycles and scooters and some of the additional parking requirements for other forms of transportation, I get what you're saying. As a percentage of your storage lot, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to locate them down there. But at a macro level, what is the accommodation for scooters and bicycles on the site in an appropriate place for, say, employees or customers who want to come and look at cars but happen to arrive some other way?
Well, they have, opportunities for placement, of motorcycles and scooters on the site. They do have opportunities where people could park there in their standard customer lots. As far as bike racks, to the best of my knowledge, they don't have any on site. Now, I
know how silly that sounds. I'm not going to pretend to make it sound like it's going to get used a lot tomorrow. But I do think we need some continuity in the application of that requirement, even at car dealerships, because you have a lot of employees, some of which may be living within a mile or two of the lot and could benefit from riding to work on their bike, or again, local customers who are in there to browse the cars and simplest thing for them to do is hop on a bike and go over there.
Especially if they don't have a car.
Yeah. Maybe the only way to get there. But more on that in a moment. But I don't necessarily want to just gloss over that issue right now. So right now you have no dedicated parking for any of those alternate modes of transportation. Is that
That's
right?
correct, yeah.
Okay.
And thank you for bringing that up, because I was thinking
Well, you're
about
welcome.
that. Because I was thinking, are we just, relegating that waiver just to this lot? Or does that cover all parking on site?
It would be just for these parking spaces.
Okay.
Now,
So
with
the
that being said,
requirements-
there are, as you remember, additional revisions to the site plan
Yeah.
that we've done over different phases. So if it is something the planning commission would like to see, we can definitely work with the applicant on future amendments
because we
to
don't
the
want to
site
do it for
plan.
everything, and then we paint ourselves into a corner because there is no parking.
Yeah. If you remember, they also have a parking garage coming.
Right.
And as well as there's still revisions, I think, done to the southern Toyota.
Towards the Toyota side,
building.
yeah, there's going to be revisions to that site as well. So significant parking revisions throughout the entirety of the site.
Okay.
But Greg, I like your point that we should look at it from a holistic perspective and not just one. I mean, we'd like to see what it's going to be for the entire site.
Maybe
On the-
perhaps on the motion for the waiver,
Mhm.
that the condition could be added that this is specifically just for
Just for
this
this.
parking
Yeah.
area.
I mean, is the rationale, right, that our ratio of non-automotive transportations is related to how many parking spaces there are? And obviously, these are storage spaces, not
Yeah.
used spaces by employees or visitors or anybody. It's just storage
Yeah.
spaces. Therefore, that waiver is appropriate because you're not actually reflecting any sort of usage calculation. It's just, this is storage. So I would argue that doesn't apply because it's storage, not because,
But
we
with
don't-
that, does that mean that there's controlled access to that, so then nobody just parks in it because the spot's open because somebody moved a car
There's no controlled access
no
to the
controlled
facility,
access.
no.
to this lot?
To this particular, to this
yeah.
particular lot,
Yeah.
yes.
I think as a practical matter, it'll be full of new cars or stuff on display, so that's fair.
Unless they sell.
My issue is that if we grant the waiver in sort of a blanket form, it takes it
Yeah.
out of the mix altogether, and I don't think that's appropriate.
Yeah, I don't like
But I
that
agree
either.
with you, for this lot, it doesn't make
Right.
sense.
Okay.
On the lighting, so tell me about the lighting and why the calcs were, that was
Why they're
boosted up so high.
38s, 40s, 50s. These are huge numbers.
This is like you'd need sunscreen to go out.
So help me understand on the back side of the lot, up against the residential neighborhood, why we need that level of lighting.
Sorry. Well, my understanding of lighting, and I did not perform the lighting computations myself, but my understanding is that the lighting code within the city of Gaithersburg is quite high. 30, I
Not
believe.
that high.
It's not that. 30-foot candles for
Actually, it is.
for storage, and I believe 50
Oh,
for display.
storage, so it's,
No, it's for car dealerships, we use the International Traffic
Okay.
Engineers, or the International Lighting Standards, and for car dealerships, it's very high.
yeah.
Is it because of security?
It is because it's a car
Advertising.
dealership and it's very high.
Okay. For
No,
security.
it's just an effective way to advertise. It's kind of cliche, but light it like a car dealership.
That's fair. I mean, thanks for clarifying it, because I wouldn't have guessed that. I would have treated this like parking lot lighting.
Yeah.
And it hadn't occurred to me, you're right, there's a different classification for car dealers, which is probably a lobby that got, marketing.
Yeah, but, I know that some of the others, I was, relating to others that I've seen, and they are really bright.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I certainly understand that at the front of the lot, certainly forward of the sales or repair bays or something like that, but as an appendage,
In the back.
an offshoot additional storage space, this almost seems like we could, this isn't
Well,
the
I
sales-
mean,
this isn't the
everyone will
sales
be
lot.
able to walk into this lot and look at the cars.
Hmm.
So technically,
Yep.
it's still somewhat of a sales lot.
Okay.
And a security problem if it's
All right.
not.
Right.
But it
Okay.
is.
And must let them use access.
Okay.
All right,
Um,
I'm convinced.
So we're only looking at this lot, the storage, stormwater management, storage vault.
I had a
go
comment
ahead.
regarding
Yeah.
the landscape. I think in our meeting in August, we had discussed perhaps a screening to the street and to the people across. I think Commissioner Wassell, who's not here today, had spoken to that effect. So, I mean, I think that the landscape proposed is, it's great, but maybe in the side that faces the street, to provide a little bit of a, a little bit more to screen that, that area. I understand that we just talked about the lighting and trying to promote it that way, but I think something pervious that also creates that separation. It doesn't have to be like evergreens, but that block completely the view, but something that would transition.
I think, it's not harmonious with the rest of Russell Avenue, where there are other lots back up against Russell Avenue, and they don't have any screening as well. It's just contiguous. I mean, it's just.
I'm with you, but I think that if we have a chance of improving that, I think that we should take it. That's just me.
So I think I'm following you. Would you put the landscape plan up?
Should be up.
Oh, that's the tree and forest conservation. Is there a landscape plan separate?
I mean, it's
Yeah.
very similar. I think this one probably is the easiest one to look at.
I think what's most, I don't want to speak for you, Rosalie, but I think the most obvious is there's a gap along the long
Yeah.
side of it, and it seems like breaking that up a little bit would be very appropriate.
Yeah.
Just so you know, there is a 10-foot PUE there, so there would not be able to be any trees or shrubs within that.
No.
Oh, okay.
There you
All
go.
right.
There you go.
Good to know.
There it goes.
Good try.
Yeah.
Got to get all the data and the facts on it. Okay, so what's next? If we do this, moving forward, you move to the next phase with the garage and some of those other things? Is that
That's
okay?
correct.
So let's resolve this issue of alternative transportation parking. If we waive it on this, can we at least get it in the record that it should be part of a future? I mean, we're really not going to see any plans that touches up close to the main retail section, right? I mean, this is really all backlot kind of work that's happening through all these phases.
Well, the Toyota showroom phase is fronting on 355, so that phase you will see some stuff that's closer to the main road. The parking garage is primarily in, I guess, sort of the L-shaped portion of the lot.
Right. But the dealership side, there's no real change to the site, right? You're not altering the parking configuration, that's really just facade work.
There is some proposed site work at a
there
later
is,
phase that will come in, I believe, with the parking garage. Part of the parking garage amendment is going to require or it's going to have a new lot line between the two properties. We can look at a site plan here. As you kind of see it here already, it's already shown, there'll be a new property line. And as part of that also, they're creating a connection between the two lots here.
Okay.
And then redoing the parking lot in this section here.
Okay, so maybe for the record, we'd like to see that addressed in that phase, given that this is probably not the appropriate place to put it. Are you all okay with that?
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns? I guess there doesn't appear to be anybody here in the audience that's going to speak on this, so since
Yeah,
it's
no
only the
one
team
speak.
left.
John, I'm
yes.
sorry to interrupt
Go
you.
ahead.
I hate to nitpick on this, but I'm just looking at the overall site plan. I look at the fact that if somebody's riding their bike and wants to go to the Subaru is the one that's facing Russell, correct?
That's correct.
They're gonna have to park their bikes over here and hike all the way there. Is there any way of putting a requirement that they provide a bike rack in front of their Subaru? Or
Would you put the site plan, because I'm not necessarily tracking with that, so I didn't see it. Okay, so.
There we go.
So just to orient you here, this is right here at the Toyota building. This is
Right.
North Frederick Avenue here, Russell Avenue in the back. This is right here at the front of the Toyota and, or not Toyota, sorry, Hyundai and Subaru
Got it.
dealership.
Got
And
it.
this will be the future parking garage here.
Got it.
The areas that they have highlighted with this dark hatched line are the areas that were part of the concept site plan that will be different phases or different site plans that you'll see before you now. What was already approved, just for your reference, is, again, was the front of the Hyundai Subaru, the architecture for that. Number one here is the one you're seeing now. And the next phase that you'll probably see will be the parking garage, which will include this area here, which is their garbage area, screened-in garbage area. These spaces here next to the existing AMCO building, and this entrance between the two properties provides some
So the
circulation.
parking garage might be able to accommodate.
and I
Subaru.
understand that, Greg, and I appreciate the clarification. I still think that, as a comprehensive look to the overall site plan, if there was an allocation to both streets frontages of alternative parking options for motorcycle and bike, I think it would be better serve the public in that sense, because even though I know we're not considering that portion in front of Subaru, and we're only considering the part with the trash and it's adjacent to that second building, holistically, if we're going to waive that requirement in one spot, we want to make sure that it's addressed in both locations where people, where the general public will access it.
What we can do, if it's okay with the commission, is on the next phase, maybe work with the applicant to, in front of the existing Hyundai Subaru building, maybe allocate some of those spaces there for bicycle or motorcycle and
It won't take
scooters.
much. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, it's not going to
Exactly.
be spaces. It's going to be a little bit of space appropriately located. And
Or in the garage, right, in the
Yeah.
front face
Exactly,
of the garage,
I-
it could be covered, yeah.
I'm just, my word of caution is just, let's not push it to the one location just because that's our next phase, but let's look at it holistically, and that's.
So
I
you're
like-
saying have one for each street
Exactly.
frontage?
Exactly,
And we'll work on that.
And like John said, it's not, we're not going to require you to do more than a tiny little thing for that use. Just be mindful of
Okay.
it.
so I think for the record, that needs to be resolved in the
Yeah.
next phase.
Right.
Right? Good. Any other comments, questions? All right. So we can't get any more landscaping along Russell because of the easement. Is that right?
But that wouldn't prohibit them from using grasses or other
Yeah.
things. Usually they do a very good job of landscaping different varieties of grasses and plantings, just as long as it's not a woody plant.
But it's not on the plan right now.
No, it's not on the plan, and we really haven't, usually, sometimes they'll put seasonal plantings, and we don't really enforce that.
Okay.
It's self-enforced.
But trees are out because of the easement or because of
Right.
the view. Okay. All right. Any other concerns, questions, comments?
No.
Do we have a recommendation? I can't remember if you got that far.
No, I can read it to you now, though.
Okay, please.
Staff recommends the planning commission, based on the exhibits submitted, the applicant's testimony, the staff report, staff findings, and staff recommendation, grant SP 7396-2016 Fitzgerald Lake Forest Auto Mall final site plan approval, finding in conformance to sections 24-170, 24-212, and 24-218 of the city code with 3 conditions. And then additionally, staff recommends the planning commission, based on the exhibits submitted, the applicant's testimony, the staff report, staff findings, and staff recommendation, grant a parking waiver for section 24, 219A5, 24, 219A6, and 24, 219B. Finding in conformance to section 24-170, 24-212, and 24-22A of the city code.
Okay. So it's your call, commissioners. Do you want to add a condition that staff to work with the applicant to locate
Yes.
alternate parking for alternate modes of
Yes.
transportation in future phases? Or
Want
is
to
the
make a
record
condition
strong?
now, or do we want to wait till the next phase comes in?
No, I'm saying it could be just part of the record
Just
and
the-
direction
yeah,
for
Just put
next
it in the
phase.
record, okay.
It's up to you guys.
Just to make sure we don't forget it.
Okay.
Don't forget it. We won't make it a condition if I promise not to forget it. No, I trust staff will follow up on that,
Yes.
so I think we're in good shape. All right. Is there any comments on the recommendation? All right, is there a motion, please?
Mr. Chair, I move that based on the exhibit submitted, the applicant's testimony and the staff report, staff findings and staff recommendations, that we grant SP 7396-2016 Fitzgerald Lake Forest Auto Mall final site plan approval, finding it in compliance with sections 24-170, 24-212, and 24-218 of the city code with the 3 conditions that were read into the record.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. And is there a motion, please, on the parking waiver?
Mr. Chairman, I move that, based on the exhibit submitted, the applicant's testimony, the staff report, staff findings, and the staff recommendation, that we grant a parking waiver to sections 24-219 paren A, paren 5, 24-219 paren A, paren 6, and 24-219 paren B, finding it in conformance with sections 24-170, 24-212, and 24-222A of the city code with no conditions.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Thanks very much. Good luck.
Good luck.
Thank you.
All right, that takes us to, from the commission. Lloyd, may I start with you, please?
Just wanted to thank the chair for recognizing the contributions of council members Henry Marafa and his passing, and just want to say that he had a passion for this city that very few people have, and it's going to be a great loss for the city as well as for his family, no doubt, having Henry no longer with us. But he's left a really good legacy for this city, and hopefully there'll be others to emulate what he has done and what he's done for the city over the last 30 years plus. And we'll miss him dearly.
Yeah.
Indeed, indeed. All right, thank you. Matt?
Just to say that Henry was a great role model to me personally, so that's all.
All right, Danny?
Just to kind of dovetail on what you did, Chairman, and what was just stated. When I think of the word city father, I think of somebody like Henry. He was always very gracious and cordial whenever I met with him, even before I became involved in the public life. And I'll never forget his graciousness and his valiant fight. He fought a good fight.
Yes.
And I'm very proud of him, and I extend my deepest condolences to his family.
All right, thanks, Danny. Good Sally.
Yeah, I extend my condolences to the Rafa family. He was also instrumental in me being here. I'm just a good role model, and I was totally shocked, and because, like I shared earlier, I honestly thought he would just fight through it. So it was a big shock and a big loss.
All right, very good. Thank you. Trudy, do you want to jump in?
Sure. Just want to say that this week at Washingtonian North is the grand opening of Lifetime Fitness. So that's our first project in that. The apartment complex has begun construction and already has that very large retaining wall completed.
Yeah. So this is kind of a nit, but are the lights turned on now, the traffic lights at the bridge and that entrance into Washingtonian North?
That's a very good question.
Okay.
That I do not have the answer, but I will certainly ask.
It was a lot of busy work going on over there. I passed it a couple days ago.
Yeah. Our next Planning Commission meeting is scheduled for November the 2nd. It's a pretty light agenda. And then we have 2 joint public hearings on Monday, November 7th. We will get information to you about what time you should arrive, because there is a presentation that may take a little while before it gets to the public hearing. But the public hearing, both public hearings, it should be a pretty long night, so something similar.
This is a regular meeting, though?
Yes, it's a regular
Not a work
meeting.
session, but it's regular.
I work for the county, and they're requiring like all of us participate in the election process. So there's always a pre-meeting on the 7th. This meeting is already kind of, there's no way it can be moved. That's going to be...
No, it's already
okay,
advertised.
It's already
advertised.
Okay.
So
All right.
we have 5 people. We haven't
Okay.
heard from you, so
And that's kind of, I
And
was
I
going
know.
to talk to you. I was going to talk to you afterwards. But
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, thanks for that service either way, right? So that what you're doing is a double effort as well.
Thank you.
So don't consider it a second choice. All right. Greg, anything tonight? All right. Miriam, Frank?
Oh,
Get the
to
last
say
word.
as the last word, I guess, very much appreciate the moment of silence and what all of you said about Henry. I remember in Me Too, in starting with the city actually on a full-time basis as assistant city attorney, because I remembered Henry when I had been elected official going back 12, 15 years. I won't say any further than that. We'll stop it there. But, and just how welcoming he had been with me as a new elected official, and now as well. And certainly somebody with that much experience and commitment is certainly a loss for the city. But what we also saw was, I often talk about here in Gaithersburg that there's a certain way we work together and conduct ourselves, and we can have disagreements, but in a not disagreeable way. And he certainly exemplified that in
Absolutely,
everything
yeah.
I ever saw.
Very
So-
collegial about them.
So thank you all.
All right, very good. If there's nothing else, have a good evening. We're adjourned.